It was April 13th, 1942, when the United States Supreme Court heard the preceding case of Betts v. Brady. It was here, when the backstory was presented to the Supreme Court, how Smith Betts broke the barrier of the law and was indicted for robbery in Maryland. Being a man of low income, Betts requested for a lawyer to be provided for him, and was denied by his state. The law at the time only required a lawyer to be provided under special circumstances, something that could be up to interpretation by any state. Betts continued his trial without a lawyer, pleading not guilty, and ended up convicted of his crime. Because of this supposed unjust action, the case went to the Supreme Court, which ruled the case 6-3 in favor of Brady over Betts. As the majority opinion, authored by former Justice Owen Roberts, had concluded that the amendments guaranteeing a fair trial do not support, quote, an inexorable command that no trial for any offense or in any court can be fairly conducted, and justice accorded a defendant who is not represented by counsel. This conclusion, however, would soon change in 1963, when a man by the name of Clarence Earl Gideon would face a similar result. It is clear that the Supreme Court case of Gideon versus Wainwright did not only break an unlawful barrier, but set the precedent for the justice system within the United States of America, as it redefined the idea of a fair trial for the better. As said before, Clarence Earl Gideon found himself in a similar situation as Smith Betts. He was accused of breaking and entering the Bay Harbor pool room in Panama City, Florida, early in the morning of June 3, 1961, where he allegedly smashed a window and stole items such as drinks and around $65 worth of cash. Confirmed by a tip by alleged witness Henry Cook, local police arrested Gideon at the age of 50, with his trial being set for August 4, 1961, with Judge Robert L. McCrary Jr. and a jury of 6 men. Gideon, being a man with little money, asked for a lawyer to be appointed to him. However, Betts v. Brady created a barrier with its ruling that lawyers can only be appointed to a defendant under special circumstances. The state of Florida at the time took this barrier and made it so that way lawyers can only be provided to defendants charged with a capital offense. With this, Gideon was denied a lawyer and ended up representing himself in court. Trying to represent himself the best he could, he tried his best to make his case by poorly examining witnesses such as Henry Cook.
You ever been arrested?
Objection.
Stained.
Well, can I ask him?
About ever being arrested? You can ask him if he's ever been convicted of a felony.
Ever been convicted of a felony?
No, sir.
You know positively that I was carrying a pint of wine?
Yes, sir, I know you was.
How do you know?
Because I seen it in your hand.
With his clear inability to legally defend himself, he was found guilty by the jury and was sentenced to 5 years in prison, the maximum sentence. This clearly demonstrates the downfall of the legal barrier created by the ruling of Betts v. Brady, and Gideon himself knew that. When talking about the trial, he stated that it was a simple case with a simple man, trying to act like a lawyer, but making a pitiful effort. A lawyer, not a great lawyer, just an ordinary, competent lawyer, could have made ashes of the case. His belief in the unfairness of this ruling caused him to start researching the law whilst incarcerated. He learned of a constitutional barrier that protects him and all Americans, that said that we have a right to legal representation. With this information, he was able to write a petition to the Florida State Supreme Court for a writ of habeas corpus, hoping they would overturn his case. The petition, however, was denied. Since Gideon had no luck breaking this barrier through the local and state justice system, there was only one more tier left to turn to: the Supreme Court of the United States. Gideon hand-wrote a petition to the Supreme Court, again whilst in prison, for a writ of certiorari, which is an order for a lower court to deliver its record case so the higher court may review it. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case of Gideon versus Wainwright on January 15, 1963, where he was represented by Abe Fortas, who later in life would become a member of the Supreme Court himself.
To me, if the court please, this record indicates the basic difficulty with Betts against Brady. And the basic difficulty with Betts against Brady is that no man, certainly no layman, can conduct a trial in his own defense so that the trial is a fair trial.
One of the main arguments the justices made within the hearing was that Betts v. Brady had done its job and that this case would just be a repeat. However, Fortas, being a knowledgeable lawyer, unlike Gideon himself in the lower court trials, was able to clarify his argument and eventually change the minds of the court. The decision of the case was made on March 18, 1963, a unanimous ruling in favor of Gideon. The opinion of the court, formerly led by Justice Black, had said in part, "Lawyers at criminal courts are necessities, not luxuries." They came to the conclusion that the Sixth Amendment's guarantee of counsel is an essential right that is given to all in America and is enforced in the 14th Amendment. Not providing a lawyer to a defense would be an unconstitutional deprivation of that guarantee. This decision broke one of the major legal barriers in the U.S. criminal justice system and reformed it for the better of the people. With this new barrier put into place, public defenders were instituted all across the United States. Gideon was retried back in Florida by order of the Supreme Court, where he was represented by William Fred Turner, who later also became a judge and passed away in 2003. Turner, unlike Gideon, was able to fully cross-examine the witness Henry Cook in Gideon's favor.
Did you go inside that Bay Harbor pool room?
No, sir.
You didn't come out of there with a six-pack of beer?
No, sir.
Well, now, you spend a lot of time around the pool hall, do you, Lester?
Son.
Well, now, there's always a lot of advertising boards in the window, aren't there? Now, how could you look in there and see somebody with all those posters?
Well, I did.
And the windows, they're kind of high up. I mean, they're almost too high to see through, aren't they?
The fact pointed out by Turner is what swung Gideon's case in his favor. He was acquitted of all charges in August 6, 1963, thanks to his constitutional right to have a provided public defender. He walked away from this case as not only a free man, but as an icon that broke a barrier for the benefit of the people within the United States. His legacy forever lives on, as the case would be used to reference this great barrier reformation by lawyers across the nation, such as Arsinger v. Hamlin, which was another case in the 1970s where the defendant was not provided a public defender, which the Supreme Court was able to unanimously vote in the defendant's name based on Gideon's precedent. A man by the name of Anthony Lewis believed this case to be so special that he wrote a book about it, titled Gideon's Trumpet, which got turned into a movie starring Henry Fonda as Gideon. And the case itself would be taught to everyone learning about the United States government and justice system.
That anyone who is accused of a crime that could potentially lose their liberty or be imprisoned should be appointed counsel to represent them in their criminal proceeding.
Mr. Gideon then had a new trial, and the jury only deliberated an hour before finding him not guilty, proving that a lawyer really was essential to Mr. Gideon getting a fair day in court. If someone can't afford an attorney based on the Gideon case, they're entitled to a free lawyer, a lawyer appointed by the court who specializes in representing people accused of crimes.
From a simple old man to an icon who was the face of a landmark case, this is a true example of how, regardless of who you are, you can break a barrier for the better.